Hi, welcome to Relationships and Astrology and the Planets and Love this week for January 9th through the 16th. I'm Armand Diaz in New York.
And I'm Margaret Gray in Dublin.
Margaret, what a week coming up. We have a full moon, we have the Sun square Uranus, we have Venus meeting with Neptune. I don't know.
It's quite an intense week, isn't it? I mean, it's really, and I know everybody was hoping the new year will be a little bit lighter, but I think we're not quite there yet. So, I think especially with relationships, just to be a little cautious, to kind of go gently with each other, because everyone's going through their own shifts and changes. So, I mean, what's your general sense of the overall theme for the week, Armand?
Actually, to tell you the truth, I think with that Sun square Uranus, the moon in Gemini, we have a full moon coming up. I think maybe a good thing to think about is maybe relationship isn't the most important thing, especially at the beginning of the week. Me time could be sort of the strategy for the early part of the week. I think that sometimes we need to kind of take care of other stuff. And I think, we may not be all that focused on relationship, and that's okay. I think that one thing that happens kind of frequently is that, you sort of get a sense, I'd like to sort of do things by myself, and then you start worrying about that. Like, how come I want to do stuff by myself? Don't I feel the same? And how about you? Why do you want to? I can understand needing a break from you, but why do you need a break from me? And I think maybe with the full moon in Cancer, security issues might be very big this week. So I think maybe, back off a little bit. Relationship isn't always the most important thing.
Well, I think, we'll certainly be going into the full moon a little bit more. We'll do a separate recording on that. And I think, the moon, starting with the moon in Gemini, of course, on Monday, and it's squaring all those Pisces planets. So I think you're right that there is that conflict, and also that conflict between emotions and the mind, and kind of trying to detach, but yet those Pisces planets don't really let us detach. So I think we're still dealing with some old patterns, some old emotional patterns, which are within ourselves, which of course will impact relationships. So it's really about how do we deal with those patterns? And maybe with the moon in Gemini, we might get a little bit of a clearer overview of that, maybe. And I certainly think the sun in Capricorn squaring Uranus in Aries is a very, very powerful aspect on Tuesday. And also maybe gives us an opportunity to start something new, a new way of looking at relationships, a new way. And as you say, there's a lot of that tug during the week between me and the other. How can I find a balance? How can I compromise? How can I not make it all about myself, but equally not make it all about the other person? Because I think all of these planets in Pisces have brought up that whole theme of sacrifice and being a martyr in relationships. And really the difference between being connected to somebody and not sacrificing ourselves. That's a hugely, hugely important thing. Otherwise, a relationship isn't going to work.
I totally agree. And with the moon in Gemini and Mercury just starting to go forward, really, they're essentially stationed at the beginning of the week, and the sun squaring Uranus, there's this kind of like go type of energy, but we may sort of trip over our untied shoelaces a little bit too, and I think that in communication, there may be some potential. I wouldn't send a lot of text messages,
Just in case, yes. Just in case, yes. It's not quite the time, is it?
Well, how about on the 11th we have Mars is going to sextile Pluto.
Yes, I think that's an interesting one. Again, we're back to really looking at structures, and even within relationships, we like to romanticize relationships, but relationships are a structure. They're part of our lives, in whether there are intimate relationships or that there are relationships with families and friends. And so I think this is a very important time to again look at those structures. What works for us, what doesn't work for us, how can we make some adjustments, some changes, some tweaks. And of course, that's also part of this time of year in January. We really look back at everything and see what does work and what doesn't work. And then, of course, key to all of this is actually making the changes.
And you know that Capricorn energy with the sun in Capricorn, I mean, it takes things from the idea level to the reality level kind of quickly sometimes. And I think that that is, you know, it's something that we can work with pretty constructively this week. I agree, you know, with the moon in Gemini at the beginning part of the week, and there is that sort of dual energy, you know, the Roman god Janus looking backwards, looking forwards. And I think we still need to do that, even though we're sort of into the new year already. I think you're right that there is kind of a looking back and forward at the same time.
And of course, the energy changes a little bit towards the end of the week because of the Cancer moon, and then the shift from the Cancer moon, the full moon in Cancer, to, of course, the Leo moon. And I think that's going to feel maybe a little bit lighter towards the end of the week, and much more heart-centered energy, much more playful energy. And of course, you know, it just gives us a little bit of a break from some of that intensity. And then on Saturday, the moon goes into Virgo, which is interesting because then we're back into that very private place. So I think that's really an important time, maybe over the weekend, to spend some time alone, to have some space, and really to just be able to kind of nurture oneself.
Also coming up on the weekend, though, we have Venus conjunct Pisces. Venus conjunct
Neptune in Pisces. The Neptunian confusion takes over, yes.
And so, you know, there could be some illusions about relationship, which, you know, could be nice illusions, and it could be, you know, delusions.
Yes, we hope that it'll be romanticism. And of course, that's when Mercury comes out of shadow. So in fact, that's when the Mercury retrograde is really over. So it really will help communication a little bit. So it might be a nice time to spend some time with a loved one and have some honest communication and sharing, but from a heart-centered place. And I think it's, again, that question of like, who do I put first, myself or someone else? And to find a place where really we're offering something to our loved ones, but at the same time, we're also really taking care of ourselves. So to find that balance at all times.
Sounds like a plan.
Wonderful. See you next week, Armand.
See you, Margaret.
Bye-bye.